Greetings everyone, this is Connor from Dwemer TV, and in this video we're talking about 5 things we can expect from an Elder Scrolls game set in Hammerfell. So as we all know, Hammerfell is home to the Red Guards, and Red Guards as a race really are kind of inspired by medieval Arabic culture, as we can kind of tell by the stuff that we've seen from them really, and the stuff that they've talked about, how they really talk about, you know, the curved swords in battle as it gives them an edge, and that's something that, you know, we saw the old Arab armies use, and the old Arabian Peninsula armies use, and everything like that. The camels, you know, to maneuver around the desert and everything, something that we see, you know, even recently. I know it's not in Arabia, but in Egypt, ancient Egypt, they used camels to wander around the desert, and that's kind of something that also was really used heavily as well in Arabic culture. So it's definitely something that they use to kind of maneuver around deserts throughout history, and it's something that we can kind of expect to do along with the Red Guards and everything if the game is set in Hammerfell. And also another thing that we can take away as well is the turbans that we kind of see them wearing, the kind of outfits that they wear is something kind of in a way kind of still, we can kind of see the evolution of how the medieval Arabic culture kind of used that, kind of inspired that into today's culture in a lot of those countries in the modern world. And also as well, I think what would be really interesting to expect from a game inspired by the Arabic culture is in that time of the medieval Arab world, when people from, you know, Britain and Europe was going over there, it was kind of really foreign, the religions that they were experiencing, the religions that they were seeing in that culture, very different than what we experience now, you know, seeing things like Islam for the first time, and Sikhism and Hinduism and stuff like that. And we're going to kind of get a little bit of that as kind of like an outsider going into this world with experience with the Red Guard religions, because they kind of also worship a kind of a foreign religion in a way from our perspective, the Western perspective of the world, and that is the old Yakudan ways. And we don't really know a huge amount about that kind of stuff, really, in regards to what that kind of represents for the Red Guard as a people. And I think that'd be really cool to experience and really learn a lot about that religion, to kind of get that kind of feeling that I think kind of Western explorers got going over out east for the first time and stuff like that, and kind of seeing these religions in action and seeing how different they are to kind of how we experiencing it, but also see the similarities as well and see how different that is, but also in regards to how they conduct in battle, and also the way that the Red Guards would also work in regards to how they operate in before battles and operate battle tactics and everything, should be very similar to what we experience when we kind of see a lot of medieval Arabic culture. And I think that'd be really cool as well in the way that they document their history, maybe a lot of, you know, drawings and kind of regarded in the same way, and also the way that they worship their gods in a similar way as well to what the Arabs used to do and the kind of Arabs do now and everything. And that'd be really, really interesting in my opinion to see how that comes out in an Elder Scrolls game in a fantasy world, and also in kind of into a race that we don't really know that much about in regards to the whole kind of population of Tamriel. Another thing we can expect is a faction-heavy game. Hammerfell, if you didn't know, if you look at this map of Hammerfell, at the time of Skyrim is an independent province, as it refused to sign the White Gold Concordat. If you're unsure what the White Gold Concordat is, it was an agreement at the time, just before Skyrim was taking place, where basically agreed that the Aldmeri Dominion would stay south and the Empire would kind of rule over, kind of have control of the rest of the Empire, kind of brought a truce to the war in a way, but they'd also have kind of the Aldmeri Dominion kind of officiaries, you know, emissaries, kind of go with them, you know, which were the Thalmor in Skyrim, and then the Empire kind of went over and be able to maintain control of Skyrim, but they had the Civil War because they kind of made peace with the elves and everything, and that's kind of really what transpired to be the events of Skyrim. But the effect that that had on Hammerfell was that Hammerfell refused to sign that agreement completely, so they remained independent from the Empire and independent from the Aldmeri Dominion. So if the game is set shortly after Skyrim, kind of how Oblivion is set shortly after Morrowind, not a big time jump like we experienced between Oblivion and Skyrim, we could maybe experience this kind of political situation in action. You know, seeing the Aldmeri Dominion and the Empire kind of fighting for control of this province, and another few factions kind of fighting for control of it themselves, or maybe wanting to unite and get another province free. You know, there's a lot of different possibilities that can go with it, and they can go kind of, I think, a big step further than what the Skyrim kind of Civil War questline is. Some people I could maybe hear them saying kind of thing, we've had a Civil War questline against the Empire and everything, but I think they could take this that different in much of a different direction, that it'd feel completely different. You know, in regards to, you know, it's not just like a rebellion group against the Empire, it's kind of a lot of different parties kind of vie for control, and kind of see how they intermingle would be really cool, and I'd kind of really like to see that. But also as well, we could maybe experience, you know, different guilds and everything. You know, the Red Guards are famed at naval combat, so maybe a pirate guild. We kind of got a little bit of that in the Dragonborn expansion over in Solstar. We got a little bit of kind of a flintlock pirate guild. But I think they could go even further with that again with Red Guard because of such the naval presence that the Red Guards have got, especially along Iliac Bay on the western coast of Hammerfell. But also as well, there's a huge story throughout the Hammerfell history. If you go and look back into Hammerfell lore, the Crowns and the Forebears is a really big kind of faction civil war kind of argument that they've got between the two, kind of like the Greymanes and Battleborns we've seen in Whiterun, but times 1,000. You know, this kind of has an impact across the whole country and not just the city that we see in Skyrim. Instead, you know, the Crowns and Forebears are kind of two major heavy factions that people have allegiances to and people have ties to throughout the whole country, and they really are at war against each other in a way, and hopefully they could do it in a way that you could maybe join these factions, but not do it in a way where there's like, you know, it's just one side's good and one side's bad. They kind of mix it up a bit and make it a little bit grey. Like they've got some principles that maybe you would agree with, but then it's got some principles that you wouldn't, and so on and so forth. And there's got reasons why you dislike, because you dislike a few of the characters on this side of the faction, but you like what they stand for, so you decide to fight for them. Different ways to do it, and also make it different in the way of the questlines as well would be really cool. But I think definitely with Hammerfell in particular, with the way that politically it's set up at the time of Skyrim, and also the history that they've got in the factions there, we can definitely experience a huge faction influence on Hammerfell, really. Next up is a surprisingly diverse landscapes. I think everyone, when they hear the words Hammerfell, they immediately jump to desert. That's all they think about. We hear about the desert all the time, the Alkir Desert, and everyone just thinks desert, desert, desert. That's all the game's going to be. Kind of in a way of how people, before Skyrim came out, thought Skyrim was just going to be all snow, you know, and that turned out they took some liberties with that, with the lore and everything there, and they made it a really, really cool landscape to explore, and really fantastic and diverse, in probably the most way they could. But with Hammerfell, there's much more of a way to go with that, because Alkir Desert, contrary to popular opinion, does not span the entirety of Hammerfell. There is mountain ranges in the north called the Dragontail Mountains, and also, you know, they kind of got a little bit of the Gerald Mountains as well with the borders to Cyrodiil. But then also on the coastline, they've also got kind of green foresty areas that are away from the desert, where a lot of the cities of Hammerfell are set. They're kind of based a lot more in the kind of coastal areas because, you know, they don't want to be in that hub of the Alkiri Desert because, you know, it's so hard to live there. So there's definitely a lot they can do. Obviously with desert, there's a lot of different varieties they can go. Just play Assassin's Creed Origins, for instance. There's a huge landscape and vast areas of desert that they could go with and make it different all the way through, so it's not just the same kind of sand dunes that we kind of got in Uncharted 3, but also as well they've got such a mixed variety of what they can do with the north and the west coasts, for instance, and the south coast of Hammerfell, that they can definitely make it such a varied landscape that'd be really interesting to explore. So it's not just going to be all sand everywhere. There's going to be a mix of kind of tropical areas mixed with that desert. There's going to be a mix with that desert kind of going into kind of big sand dunes to going into huge kind of rocky mountain tops and everything. Kind of a little bit like the area we saw in that teaser trailer, to be honest with you. That's kind of what we kind of really saw when it came down to that area of desert we can expect from the north side of Hammerfell. And I think as well that when it comes down to it, with the diverse landscape, that's going to make it a much more fun world to explore rather than interesting as well, because it wants to have something new, new vistas, new areas to look at and everything to make the game more interesting to me. At number 4 is a huge Dwemer influence. So if people didn't know, the Dwemers are actually the first people to ever settle on Hammerfell. They settled there in the first era, about 500 years before Redguards came over from Yakuda, and really kind of built a lot there, as you can expect. You know, the great craftsmen the dwarves were, the Dwemer were, and they apparently built huge underground cities, when that, in my opinion, would be so really so cool, you know, to explore, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, the Dwemer had kind of not that big of an influence on Skyrim on the grand scheme of things, and the Dwemer ruins in that game were my favourite things to go around and explore, because they're just so different to kind of just the normal caves and the normal dungeons that we kind of experience. So being able to take that and have it as a much more of a kind of a huge more of an influence across the Alkiri Desert, under the Alkiri Desert, would be really interesting to explore, to see these big behemoth cities, because seeing their kind of the old craftsmen that they've got, but they kind of destroyed a bit in Skyrim in a way, it's kind of a little bit sad to see, but also really cool. But being able to kind of go and maybe find hidden cities in the Alkiri Desert that they kind of been blown over with sand and everything, that being able to go and discover them, they've kind of been a little bit not really that touched, they're kind of still in kind of pristine condition, would be really cool to kind of see how empty they are, and just kind of maybe guarded by the Dwarven Centurions and stuff like that. I'd be so down to kind of see that stuff. You know, maybe it could be the game when we find the answer to what happened with the dwarves. I doubt it. You know, I think they'd want to keep that going for as long as possible. But you know, there's going to be a much bigger influence of that in Hammerfell as what we kind of experienced before, and I think they're kind of looking to kind of do that as well, because they took some liberties with Skyrim in the lore, because, you know, to kind of suit the gameplay, which is by all means, you know, everything that I'm saying right now could be kind of go away because they want to do something completely different with the game. But at the time of Skyrim and what we can experience with the history of Tamriel and everything, and what's kind of really gone on with Hammerfell, we can kind of expect to kind of see more of a kind of a dwarven history influence on there, kind of find out more about them, and that'd be really something that I'd be looking forward to more and more as we got closer to release. And the last reason I've got is kind of not something that we can expect, but something that I wanted to kind of speculate on and kind of wanted to bring to light, because I think there's a chance of it maybe happening, is naval combat. Redguards are really known for their navy, and really, well, kind of the big thing about them is that they sailed from the land that they were originally settled on, the Yakuden Islands. When they sunk, they sailed east to Hammerfell and settled there. Then, you know, that's kind of the story of the race, really. And I think that they kind of be dropping, kind of like missing an opportunity if they don't have a kind of a big naval influence, you know, or at least having ship combat in some form. And we haven't experienced that so far in a Bethesda Game Studios game. And I think that it'd be one thing that I'd really want to see how they do, especially if the rumours, or the speculation, I'd say, of them setting on two provinces of Hammerfell and High Rock, having the Iliac Bay in between those two provinces as kind of like a naval battleground in a way, would be something that I'd want to kind of do. I'd kind of want to go in there and kind of, you know, sail around and, you know, maybe fight with a couple of ships. Go back to the Pirate Guild idea I had before. They could bring that to a new extent, because, you know, there was a couple of missions where they had like you know, in Skyrim, where you'd go on a ship to like an area up north, and where some pirates are kind of decked out in some fort, and you'd go there and kind of take them all out and come back again. And there was kind of no real ship combat there, and I feel like they kind of missed an opportunity there. And I kind of think they should maybe do that with something in the game that's kind of such a naval heavy race as Hammerfell, if they're going to do that, and it'd bring a completely new part to exploring as well, which I think would be something that'd be make this game kind of different to all the other Bethesda Game Studios games. It has that new niche to it, you know, like Skyrim has dragons, you know, the Oblivion has the kind of the Oblivion Gates, and Morrowind has that alien feel to it in regards to the Elder Scrolls games. And I think that having this one with the kind of the ship combat to it would be something that would make it very different from all the other ones. And I think that it'd be something that this would make this game stand out. So thanks all for watching. Let me know where you think the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be set. I think it's going to be either Hammerfell or Hammerfell and High Rock. I think it's one of those two things. I think Hammerfell is definitely one of them that it's going to be set in. And I've gave you some of the reasons that's something that we can expect there. Let me know what you think. I apologise again about my voice in this video. I know it's not perfect, but I think it's definitely passable for a video in the future. And hopefully it will be fine tomorrow. It's definitely on the comeback around anyway. So thanks a lot for watching. Let me know what you think about everything regarding the Elder Scrolls 6 and the theories that you've seen so far in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to Dagora TV, and also follow me on Twitter at DagoraC. Thank you and goodbye.